In this video, I'll answer the question, how many hours per day should you study for the LSAT? Hey, what's up everybody? Steve Schwartz here from LSAT Unplugged, joining you today to answer the common question, how many hours per day should you study for the LSAT? Before I get into it, a little bit about LSAT Unplugged. We offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. Check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out. So the reason I'm making this video is that students are always asking me, how many hours per day should I be studying for the LSAT? How should I allocate my LSAT study schedule over the course of the day and over the course of the week, given other obligations? The answer, of course, will depend on what exactly your other obligations are. Are you studying for the LSAT full-time, or do you have other things going on, like work obligations, school obligations, family obligations? All of that will impact how much time you can and should allocate to the LSAT per day and per week. Now, if you're in the fortunate position to be able to study for the LSAT full-time, you may be tempted to study for the LSAT 8-10 hours per day, or even more than that. However, you should be aware that this is a recipe for burnout. There is a limit to how much you can reasonably study for the LSAT, assuming your studying is focused and you're giving it your all. You're not checking your phone, social media, email, news sites, watching TV while you're studying for the LSAT simultaneously. Of course, that's not going to lead to optimal results. And unfortunately, it will put you in the position of thinking you're studying when actually the amount of productive, focused study time you're getting is actually much shorter than you would otherwise believe. So if you are in the position of being able to study for the LSAT full-time with no other obligations, I recommend maximum 5 to 6 hours per day. Anything beyond that could lead to burnout and is likely not sustainable over a long period of time. However, if you have other obligations, like you're working full-time or you're in school full-time, I would recommend you reduce that significantly by more than half to maybe only 2 hours per day, maybe 3, depending on what else you have going on. If you are studying for the LSAT while simultaneously in college, maybe if you can take a slightly lighter course load in a given semester, and then you can treat the LSAT as a 6-credit class, you could then devote maybe 3 hours per day over the course of 4 to 5 days per week, allowing you to achieve 12, 15 hours of LSAT prep per week. If you can only do 10, that's fine. If you can only do 5, that could be okay as well, although of course you may want to study over a longer period of time if you can only study 5-10 hours per week. Now, on a given day, you may want to do just 1 or 2 hours per day, carve it in to your schedule wherever you can. Of course, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and if you're studying for the LSAT while in school full-time, then of course your LSAT study timeline may be longer than that of someone who's able to study for the LSAT full-time with no other obligations. Now, if you are working full-time in a standard 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job, then your schedule is fairly regimented, unlike that maybe of a college student, and as a result, you can more predictably determine where you'll be able to fit in your LSAT prep time. You might want to try to carve out an hour before work, an hour during lunch, and an hour after work. If you're going to study for an hour before work, I typically recommend that if you are commuting to work, you get to the office early and study in an empty conference room in your office, or maybe at a coffee shop near your office. It's a lot easier to study for the LSAT outside of the house than in your house, at least in my experience. And then of course, during lunch, maybe you find a conference room, maybe at your desk, maybe you'll even go to a coffee shop again to get that hour of focused LSAT prep time. And then for that final hour after work, you study again near work, at work, in a conference room for that final hour before you get home. Because of course, once you get home, there are going to be a lot more distractions like family, friends, roommates, significant other, Netflix, of course, all competing for your attention. And so if you're still in your work mindset and still physically out of the house, it may be easier to dedicate that focused LSAT prep time. So again, if you are studying for the LSAT full-time, no other obligations, I recommend 5 to 6 hours of focused LSAT prep time at the most. If you are in school or working full-time, I recommend significantly less, maybe as little as 2 to 3 hours per day at most. If you can only do less than that, if you could only do an hour, that's fine too. Something is, of course, better than nothing, and even just a half hour or an hour in a single day is going to maintain your momentum. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good and saying, well, if I can't do an hour or two, I might as well do nothing. That is certainly not true. Even just 30 to 60 minutes will, of course, have a significant impact. Even just a single problem per day will have a significant impact when scaled across time. Anyway, folks, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to see it. I don't do any advertising for this channel. I rely only on word of mouth to help get the word out, and your sharing this video really does make a difference. And if you haven't already, get a copy of my book, Mastering the LSAT, available at lsatmasterybook.com for more advice on structuring your LSAT study schedule. Anyway, folks, in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.